On the afternoon of April 10th, 2018, 16-year-old Kyle Plush had just finished classes at Seven Hills High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. He walked out the school's doors and began walking straight across towards the sophomore parking lot where his car, a minivan, was located. Of all the sports he enjoyed playing, tennis was his favorite. He had joined the high school tennis team and had become one of their best and most popular players. That afternoon, he had a match scheduled, so he needed to get into his minivan and get out his tennis racket and his tennis shoes. And so he made it to the vehicle a little bit after 3 p.m. And then he climbed towards the third row back seat of the van where his sneakers were sitting on the bench seat. He took off his school shoes, put on his tennis shoes, and then he got up onto his knees and turned around so he's facing the back of the van. His knees are on the third row seat, and he began reaching down into the trunk to reach for his bag that contained his tennis racket. The third row itself flipped backwards, dumping him headfirst into the trunk. His upper half made it about halfway down. He tumbled with the seat, and then he got stuck upside down when the top of that third row seat caught his chest and pressed it up against the back hatch of the van. His hands are free in the trunk space, but they're too close to the ground where he can't really press himself out of this position he's in. There was also no inside handle on the back hatch that Kyle could have grabbed and potentially opened the back door. That loose third row that came forward and trapped Kyle, it weighed nearly 100 pounds and it was driving against his chest. He couldn't reach his phone because it was up in his pants pocket, but he had a smartphone and he knew he could use voice-assisted calling. And so at 3:14 p.m., he used his iPhone's voice assistant, Siri, to call 911. And he was yelling, "Help, help, help, I'm trapped in a minivan in the Seven Hills parking lot." But the dispatcher couldn't really understand what Kyle was saying, not knowing if this was real or a hoax. The dispatcher wrongly labeled this call as unknown trouble when they broadcast it to police. Local police were sent to the Seven Hills High School area to go look around the different parking lots that this caller could have been in. But there was nearly a dozen of these parking lots associated with the high school. Kyle used Siri to call 911 again, and a different dispatcher answered. Now, at this point, it's been 21 minutes since Kyle's first 911 call, and one of the things he says to the dispatcher as soon as they answer is, "If I die, I need you to tell my mother that I love her." And then there's a silence. And Kyle asked them, "Can you hear me?" And there's still a silence. The second dispatcher had heard Kyle on this call, but for some reason did not relay to the patrolling officers in the area Kyle's dire situation. 6 hours later, Kyle's father went out looking for him after he didn't come home from his tennis match. And he found his son's minivan parked in the sophomore parking lot at the high school. And when he went up to it, it was too late. His son was still trapped upside down in the back in the trunk, and he had died after the third row had finally crushed his chest, causing him to asphyxiate.